Something very interesting is happening in our country right now as we speak. Students are out protesting in the streets in many parts of our countries through the night, through the day, holding placards, chanting slogans in universities on the streets. We are now seeing more and more filmmakers and actors, singers, artists, writers, stand-up comics also join the chorus and speak up. The issues may be different. Some are talking about Citizenship Amendment Act and NRC. The others are talking about the police brutality that was witnessed when there were protests and there was violence unfolding on the streets of national capital and elsewhere. Now the focus has become what's happened in JNU and the brutal attack that took place and the terror that was unleashed in the premises of JNU on Sunday evening. Joining me for a special conversation on all these issues, the big talking points, and whether what Deepika did was right or wrong, was it a stunt or was it genuine solidarity with the JNU students? Mr. Javed Akhtar, always a pleasure to speak with him. Thank you for joining us here on Mirror Now, Mr. Akhtar. This is Tanvi here. इससे पहले कि हम जो larger issue है उस पे आए, I wanted to understand from you, what is your response to the backlash that Deepika Padukone is witnessing right now, with many saying we should boycott her movie, we should not watch her pack because this is simply a publicity stunt. The fact that she went there and stood with the so-called Tukre Tukre gang.
Now, this is the problem, that once you say that intolerance is rising in the society, people get very upset. But every time they prove this allegation that intolerance is rising. Deepika is a citizen of a democratic, free country. She has all the right to join any procession, any protest, and to say that because she has taken this side or she thinks that these people are right, you will ban her films, you will do this, you will not see her face, and you will see to it that her career comes to an end. What kind of attitude is this? You may disagree with her, and she may disagree with you, but do you want to deprive her of the right to express her feelings, her point of view? Why? But why? In a democratic society, things don't work like this.
Javed Akhtar ji, do you think it's a problem for celebrities and stars more, whether they speak or they don't speak? Obviously, there are personalities like you, there's Anurag Kashyap, there's Sudhir Mishra, who are very vocal about their views, who do take a stand very often. But there are those who don't. And when they speak up, they get criticized for that. When they're silent, they're criticized for that. Is it a big problem for stars and celebrities in our country?
Yeah, this is not fair. I mean, they are stars or they are celebrities. That is another story. The fact remains that first of all, there was a time when they were not stars, and perhaps the time will come when they'll cease to be stars. But they will be the citizens of this country, a democratic, secular country. And how can we, in such a bullish and such a unjust manner, try to deprive a person of expressing his or her opinion? Is it done? Is it fair?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Everybody in this country has
and anybody who disagrees with
Yes, go ahead, please.
Anybody who disagrees with the AVBP or BJP or the present regime, anybody is an anti-national. You are nation. Are you the nation? Are you the only people who are the nation? What is your definition of a nation? AVBP and RSS and the government, they are the nation, and rest of us are guests. And they will decide whether we are nation or not. It's not fair. I'm not saying that higher-ups are saying it, but at least people who are on the ground are constantly preaching this, that either you are with this point of view, this school of thought, or you are anti-national. What does it mean?
We here at Mirror Now hate labels and don't endorse
anti-national activity.
Any kind of labels. But my question to you, Mr. Akhtar, Yes, I think he's lost the earpiece. We're just going to get the earpiece back so that he can hear me. Javed Akhtar making a very important point, saying why is it that anybody who has a different view from ABVP or even the current regime is labeled an anti-national. But Mr. Akhtar, the argument from the other side, if you can hear me now, is that, well, you are still allowed to make a point. आप अपनी बात आज मेरे साथ रख रहे हैं, दीपिका पादुकोण को भी फ्रीडम है वहाँ जाके कन्हैया कुमार के साथ खड़े होके अपना सपोर्ट एक्सप्रेस करने की, कोई नहीं रोक रहा ना इस करंट रेजिम से अभी तक किसी मिनिस्टर ने आके कुछ नहीं कहा, तो ये भी तो फ्रीडम मिल रही है आपको कि आप क्रिटिसाइज कर सकते हैं इस रेजिम को.
नो आई नो, नहीं बिल्कुल फ्रीडम मिल रही है. मैंने तो कहा ना कि हायर अप ऐसी बात नहीं करते हैं, मगर जो ग्राउंड लेवल पे लोग हैं वो इस तरह की बात कॉन्स्टेंटली करते रहते हैं. और ये द वेरी theory is wrong. You know, there was a time when there was emergency in India and a lot of people, crores of people stood up against emergency and saw to it that emergency is removed. So they were opposing the government. They were opposing the party in power. So were they anti-nationals? Opposing the government or opposing the party in power is not an anti-national activity. Exactly this is what democracy is all about.
Yes.
So when you are saying that you should not oppose the party in power, when you are saying that don't oppose the government, you are saying lose your democratic rights. Just surrender them.
You know, the way I see it, Mr. Akhtar, what's happening in our country right now...
What else you say? In democracy?
Yes. The way I think, Mr. Akhtar, what is happening in our country right now is something very, very beautiful. And for, especially for many youngsters, many middle-aged people also, they wouldn't have seen this in the recent times, where students are taking a stand, where students are actually holding protests, are bothering to find out what the national policy, what the national laws are, what is the national sentiment, where celebrities and stars and filmmakers and artists, everybody is speaking, you know, and it doesn't matter. And I'm not getting into what is whose view and which view is right or wrong. But I want to understand from you, what is your sense? ये जो माहौल आज बना है, जिसमें सब लोग मिलके, परसों हमने देखा बैंड्रा में सब डायरेक्टर्स इतने बड़े बड़े मिलके गाने गा रहे हैं, कविताएं बोल रहे हैं, ये जो माहौल बन रहा है, ये क्यों हो रहा है इतने लार्ज स्केल पे?
You see, if you remember, maybe you were too young to remember, maybe you were not born that time. During emergency, again the resistance had started from the students. Now, students obviously don't have ultimately any political agenda. Comes a time when they feel that enough is enough. And they are a very, very potent force. And they had started that movement, and ultimately political parties had joined them. But they were the leaders at that time. They were leading the movement. They were the real force. And again, this is happening. What happens that I am afraid that Mrs. Gandhi was Mrs. Indira Gandhi was to a great extent blissfully unaware that what a popular and potent movement it is. Because people around her must have told her that these are some miscreants who are creating the problem, but the rest of the country is very happy with you. And I'm sure, because I see in film industry, if you're a successful actor, if you're a big filmmaker, the people around them don't have the guts to tell them which they don't want to listen. You can imagine what position a prime minister or the home minister has. They are up above the world so high. They are so powerful people. How many people will dare to tell them what is the fact? So I think that in spite of all the intelligence network and everything, people at the top don't get the right picture. They don't realize that how potent and powerful this protest is. They are being told, I think, that there are some mischief makers, there are some leftist, mad, crazy people who are doing this. No. To think that this whole movement is about CAA or about NRC, again, that is also underestimating it. You see, remember Dandi March. Lakhs of people had followed Mahatma Gandhi for the Dandi March, which was ostensibly to make salt. But all those people who are following Gandhiji that time, and they were in that procession, were they going to make salt? No. That was just a tiny platform. They were taking out all their frustration and all their anger and all their resentment which had accumulated for so many years. This is something the government should understand. This is our government ultimately, and we should not be on cross purposes. They want the progress, they want harmony, they want development. Any citizen would want that. So instead of having very hard stance that we will not move 1 inch behind, why won't you? You can. It's not an ego hassle. It's not an ego problem. We are talking of the nation. Sit with these people, talk to them, listen to their point of view, or as a matter of fact, it should reach you by now because they are shouting hoarse what is their problem.
Okay.
What are their problems? The problems of students, the problems of minorities, the problems of landless labor, the problem of farmer, the problem of unemployed. All of it is in it. To think that it is only CAA will be miscalculating it, misjudging it.
Okay. No, I completely agree with you that there is something larger at play here, which cannot just be attributed to the Citizenship Amendment Act or one incidence of violence in a university. You mentioned emergency multiple times, Mr. Akhtar, and in your wide experience and all the times that you've seen, do you think it's never been this serious since emergency in our country?
Practically, what is emergency? If an average person is scared of talking, and anybody who does is opposed so vehemently and so aggressively, what else it is? And people are caught, people are put behind bars, people are arrested, people are missing. All of it is happening, whether in UP or in different parts of India. Just see what is happening. So what else it is?
The other charge that's made or the defense that comes from the other side, and actually there may be some merit to this, is selective response to what's happening, Mr. Akhtar. For example, there are ABVP students as well in JNU who've been brutally injured. On our show for the last 3 days, I've been speaking to youngsters, I've been speaking to teachers and to students of JNU.
In any unconditional...
Yes.
Unconditional terms, I'll condemn the violence, whether it is against a ABVP student or anybody else.
Okay.
Violence is not acceptable. But what is interesting that you see that what happened on Sunday, the FIR is there. What happens on Monday, there is no FIR. Not a single person is arrested. I mean, the office bearer of ABVP, she accepts that this man who is standing with a lathi in his hand is her office bearer, is a member, is her activist. And why he has a lathi in his hand? She says for self-defense. So there were people who had gone inside JNU for self-defense with lathis. Who are those people? Many of them have been recognized, even that girl who had a mask on her face. Why they are not arrested? Why there is no inquiry so far? What kind of justice? What kind of message we are giving to the society?
What would your, appeal or message be to the Prime Minister, to the Home Minister today, the two main faces of the current government? Because you say it's perhaps not their call. They haven't made any of these comments. People are maybe advising them badly, and it's the other leadership that's,
I will, of course they have.
Go ahead, please.
Of course they have not. Of course they have. You see, there is slight confusion between, as far as the NRC is concerned, between the statement of the Prime Minister and the Home Minister. So an average citizen like me gets a bit confused about it. So I think the government should clarify their position, whatever the position may be. It is their right and their call. But I'll, with all due respect and with all humility at my disposal, I'll say to the Prime Minister or to the Home Minister that these people are your people. You are not the Prime Minister or Home Minister of a party. You are the Home Minister and Prime Minister of this country. You are our Prime Minister. We don't have any other Prime Minister. You are our Prime Minister. And you owe us as much as to anybody else. So listen to those people first who are disagreeing with you. They are important because they are disagreeing. and listen to them. Maybe there is some truth in it. Maybe you are saying something which has certain gravitas, and some people, something is there, some truth is in the statements of those people who are complaining, and reach some conclusion and let's move forward. I mean, we are here. We should talk of development, we should talk of progress, we should talk of education, infrastructure, we should talk of health. These topics are totally, they have vanished. And we are, this great country is wasting its time in these things and energy. It's not advisable.
As much as, I've loved talking to you about what's going on in our country right now and your views on such big policy issues as well, Mr. Akhtar, if I can just ask you to share maybe two lines, दो लाइनें जो आज के माहौल को देख के, आज जो हो रहा है इस देश में, जैसे यंगस्टर्स आवाज़ उठा रहे हैं, उनको देख के दो ऐसी लाइनें जो आपके मन में आती हों.
मैं अपनी एक शेर सुना देता हूँ आपको. कभी तो इंसान जिंदगी की करेगा इज्जत, कभी तो इंसान जिंदगी की करेगा इज्जत, ये एक उम्मीद आज भी दिल में पल रही है.
Shukriya so much. Always a pleasure to have you. Javed Akhtar, thank you for speaking to us here on Mirror Now.